Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome back to the Still Chill podcast. We've been gone, but we're back.
We've been gone for too long.
Beautiful. Okay, so we're back, and the last time we spoke, it was lockdown 2, and now it's lockdown 3 in the UK. There's a lot happening. So I'm curious to know, Raha, how have you found this lockdown?
Oh, I found this one much harder than the first one. The first one was easy breezy, I think. It was really hot weather.
Yeah.
Everyone's on TikTok. It was brand new for people. So
Bathing in the sun.
In the sun. Oh, it was wonderful. And I was pretty much on the brink of a burnout at that point. So it just felt like I really needed that rest for the time being. And this time around, it just feels dragged out. Like, the weather is horrible. We've been cooped up for a long time now. And the other thing is, like, I just feel like there's the same level of uncertainty that we felt in the first lockdown that hasn't changed, even though we've been at home for almost a year.
I think things have changed in the sense that obviously, like, the vaccines have come out and people have opinions about that.
Yeah.
The government is, like, introduced the tier system, which again was different, but people were torn about that as well. And it's adding uncertainty on top of uncertainty. So now we have other things to be uncertain of on top of what's already happening or not happening, for that matter.
Yeah. How did you find it? How are you finding this one?
Hard.
Yeah.
Hard. Yeah, definitely more difficult. And for me, it's not that I'm like, I think last lockdown, I was having a hard time balancing my emotions. I felt very emotional. There was a lot of like emotional processing that was going on at the time. But this time round, I just feel such a lack of motivation. I just want to be in bed all the time because the sky is grey. My environment isn't changing. Like, I'm just doing everything from this one room.
I mean, January alone is difficult for people, I think.
Yeah.
And also, do you think that emotion that you're talking about from the first lockdown has anything to do with all the stuff that was happening globally, like climate change and BLM and all of these? Because I feel like we experienced that and there was a lot of emotional turmoil, and now it's like people just have to sit with it.
Heck yeah. I really felt that way in November. That's exactly what I felt. I thought, right, in the summer, I thought, revolution, babe.
Yeah.
I thought it's here. It's time.
It will not be televised, babe.
No. And I was so sure. And I thought, hey, sure, not everyone's on board, but there's a big group of people who are ready for this change and they're willing to make that change. But of course, it never happened. So it was almost grieving that idea.
Yeah.
And then, processing all the emotions and everything. And now I feel like frustrated.
Yeah. Because I think everyone was at least hoping for some plan of action. Of some
positive change.
Or some idea of what the future was going to bring. I feel like we are no closer to knowing what the next year is going to bring for us.
And this is outside of COVID, right? Because we were the world was already struggling before COVID happened. So this is not just about COVID. Of course, COVID was going to be uncertain because we've not done this before, but it's everything else. Like, it's just not coming together in the way that I'd hoped or the way that we'd anticipated, maybe in the first lockdown. And just loads of like conflict and terrible world news.
Terrible world news.
Yeah. Which has been bogging us down, hasn't it? So Raha and I haven't been on social media for about, is it a month? Nearly a month?
Yeah.
Not because we're like social media detoxers and we feel really obliged to tell you. It's
clearly we do.
We do, yeah. Validate us. No, it's more because we felt like we were, I'm going to talk about myself. I felt like I was more... I was just, like, soaking up all this information and I had nowhere to channel it.
Yeah.
So I was very upset. I was feeling a lot of empathy, almost, like, to the point of burnout. And then being like, I can't do anything about this feeling that I'm feeling or this energy that's building up within me. And I'm literally just sitting in it.
But do you think that was like a change? Do you know what I mean?
No, I think
why
it's just
was
on
that
top
different?
of everything else.
Okay, right, okay.
I think on top of everything else, yeah. And so basically, all of this rambling because we decided that we were going to do a whole series of like 4 or 5 episodes on identity.
Which has been ruined. We've had to scrap it all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was very, very, very good. And yeah, now we can't. Well, we're going to release it.
We just didn't want to send you all into an existential crisis when we are in the 3rd lockdown.
Yeah.
Awful
So
idea.
basically, we wanted to address this uncertainty and this constant change and what people are experiencing and the way in which we think things should be versus how they actually are, and how that kind of causes us a lot of suffering.
Yeah.
And breaks down a lot of our relationships. So whether it's how the government is dealing with COVID, whether you think it should be something different to what it is, or whether it's neighbours looking out for who's following the restrictions and who's not.
Yeah.
Like,
and also just people's plans just generally getting completely screwed over.
where you're like, okay, Christmas should look like this,
Yeah.
or my summer should look like this. Working from home should look like this.
I should be this productive.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of shoulds versus what is,
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
Why do you think that's so difficult to kind of overcome, Raha?
You mean the uncertainty behind it, or...
Yeah, and this constant, like, desire to control how our life should look or what other people should be doing.
Yeah, I definitely had / have an issue with control. And I don't mean that in like my personal relationships, but just when it comes to like my work and academics, I was always a control freak.
Or how you should be perceived, maybe?
Or how I should be perceived. Yeah. I feel like I tried to control almost every aspect of my life apart from... other than trying to change other people, if that makes... or control other people. And all of that came from fear and still comes from fear. Whether it be like financial stability or comfort, you know, social reasons, it's always me fearing the consequence of something not going the way that I want it to go, or according to my plan, or the way that I've set it out in my mind.
Yeah.
That, yeah, it just means that I feel like I have to control so many things that are not even within my control.
Yeah.
And it causes a lot of internal conflict for me.
And what happens when things don't go your way?
It's my fault.
Right.
Yeah. I didn't control this enough.
Yeah.
And so the responsibility lies on my shoulders, and I'm like, where did I go wrong? You know?
Right.
It's really hard to let go of that control, I think.
100%.
And I know a lot of people that I know struggle with it too. But it's just the most uncomfortable feeling, I think. When you think you have hold of something that you don't actually have hold of. And I think people are so used to controlling certain aspects of their lives, especially when it comes to their work.
Yeah.
And like their immediate family and all of that kind of stuff, that when something like this happens, like the pandemic.
The pandemic?
Yeah, babe. Pie corona.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. I totally agree with you. Yeah. And I think, just to add to that it comes maybe from a sense of seeing things in black and white, right and wrong.
Oh, without a doubt. Because you know I'm the most indecisive person ever. And I always place so much value on making the right decision.
Yeah.
And that just does not exist.
Yeah.
Like, I really had to learn that it doesn't exist. I can't possibly make... I'm going to regret whichever decision I make. Period. But that's just how it is. And that sounds so cynical, but that's actually helped me so much when I'm trying to make a decision.
Right.
Like, you're going to regret whichever one you make. So just pick.
That's a terrifying mindset.
No, it's not. It really helps. I'm telling you.
Yeah, that might, yeah. You do you.
Because you're always going to wonder what if.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. For me, I think that was drilled into me a lot. Growing up, you got to make the right choices.
Yeah.
And again, I think coming from an immigrant background, that has a lot to do with it because there's a lot more like instinctual survival going on. Where if you do make the wrong choice, it could be a matter of living on the streets or even death, you know? So I get it.
And I think it's hard for immigrants because it's like they're fed this narrative that this can be in relation to anything, let's say work. They're like, okay, if you follow this path, if you work really, really hard, you'll get to where you want to get to.
Yeah.
You know? And for a white person, that might be true.
Yeah.
But for somebody of colour, when things don't happen for them or they are denied of certain opportunities, then it's like, oh, wait, that's my fault?
Yeah, you put the blame on yourself again, don't you?
And that's not to say you should blame others all the time and blame the system for everything that goes wrong in your life, obviously. But that's an insane amount of pressure, I think, to put on yourself.
Yeah, I would agree. So, would you think it's fair to say that since moving to England, you've heard the phrase, I don't like change, more than you ever have in your life?
Oh my God. I've heard it so much.
Yeah.
Like, we know some traditional people, okay? And not just British people, like, from everywhere.
Yeah.
But I would say out of all the countries that I've been to, England really... British people like their tradition.
Yeah.
Like, and...
They like their comforts, don't they?
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I love that too. I like my home comforts and I like familiarity and there's just something really comfy about it. But there's no room for growth there. And being a third culture kid, we've gone through so many changes that it's like if I don't change stuff up in my life, I am stuck. And that's when I can go into a dark place very easily.
Yeah. Definitely.
And although the change is incredibly uncomfortable, I still have to have that in order to feel like myself. Does that make sense?
So do you think that people are scared of change or don't like change because it makes them feel uncomfortable?
Without a doubt, yeah.
Uncomfortable how?
In every sense. Because as soon as you start changing things internally and even because... that translates into the things that you do and the way that you interact with people. And change is terrifying. Like, I think I feel this discomfort physically.
Where'd you feel it?
Like, in my brain.
Yeah.
No, but like in my chest. I get really, really tense, like tense shoulders. Like I clench my jaw a lot. I'm just a tense person.
Yeah.
And I have to practice relaxing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I move towards discomfort, I have to practice relaxing that much more as well. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does make sense. So correct me if I'm wrong. You're saying that you are open to change and you seek change because of how you've been brought up and all the experiences that have led up to until this point. But change comes with discomfort.
Yes.
And you've not learned how to relax in that discomfort. So you're someone who holds yourself quite tense because you like the change and you experience the discomfort, but you don't process the discomfort.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's very interesting.
But like, what would you say is the best way to process that?
The game changer for me has been meditation.
Yeah.
Which, sorry to sound like a broken record.
Yeah.
But what it does is it unifies your mind, body, spirit. So it's not like it's a connection, like they're disconnected. It's one thing.
Yeah.
Right? And like I've mentioned before, for a long time I couldn't feel the sensations and feelings in my body. So when I was able to feel discomfort, I was like, this is horrid. This is why I avoid it, you know? But just sitting with the feeling and being able to describe it. So not judging it in the sense of saying this is right or wrong, this is good or bad, like we were saying, is not helpful. But to really get curious about it, really be open with it.
Yes. That's the one thing that helps me is openness, I would say.
Just like literally physically opening your posture up.
Allowing it in, like letting it pass through you.
Definitely. And this is where the attitudes of mindfulness get really, really like come to the forefront. So you've got things like trust. So trusting that if you open yourself up, nothing bad's going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Trusting that you, within you, have this wisdom and this intuition that, and all the tools that you need to overcome this discomfort and to continue on, right? So that's all trust. And then also acceptance. So acceptance is a really tough one because I think a lot of people see it as you should only accept things for what they are and then it is what it is and you leave it as it is, right? Which of course it is not it, but you have to accept the fact that you're feeling uncomfortable in order to be with it.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're bypassing it, you're completely overriding it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but when you say overriding it, how do you think people tend to do that?
They just don't acknowledge it.
Right, okay, yeah.
You know, or they acknowledge they're like, oh, this doesn't feel nice. Okay, on to the next one.
Yes.
Like within seconds.
Because I remember when I moved to the Netherlands, for example, it was like the first few nights that I was there, I was like, oh, I'm very uncomfortable. Like, I'm in a completely different country by myself. I don't know anyone. And I literally was just like, just feel it. Like, just sit and feel it. Because my first response was to go and distract myself.
Yeah.
In any way possible. Like, oh, go and explore the new city you live in. Go and make the first friend that you can find. Like, spend time on social media and all of that.
You should be doing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I was like, just be uncomfortable. That's fine.
Yeah.
You know? And I can't tell you how quickly that passed.
Yes, exactly that.
And that's really when I learned, okay, I need to just let this stuff come into my life.
And this is where you hit the nail on the head, literally. It passes.
Yeah.
If you don't let it. Sure, it passes if you ignore it, but it actually passes properly if you just sit with it. And what could have happened is you could have moved to the Netherlands. You could have said, okay, I should be feeling like this. I should be really excited. And then get really annoyed with yourself that you don't feel like that. Yeah. And that's where the self-criticism and the self-sabotaging comes in.
And the control.
The control, because you're trying to control the situation. You're trying to control your response to your experience. And it's like, no, your body's responding in a way because it's intelligent and it knows.
Yeah.
And you have to just honour that, you know?
Yeah, it's honouring. It's honouring the way that you feel.
It's honouring the vast variety of feelings and emotions that we are able to experience, but often shut ourselves out of, you know? Because we only want to feel the good things and we only want to make the right decisions, right?
Yeah.
When actually...
there is no right decision.
No, sis. No.
It just doesn't exist.
You've got to feel the feelings of discomfort because they tell you things about yourself, about your environment.
Yeah.
They're messengers. And when I talk about acceptance, I kind of want to clarify this. I talk about radical acceptance because it is radical. Sometimes you don't feel like accepting something, but you have to, right? But when I'm talking about that, I'm not talking about things like domestic violence situations, you know, that you should just accept it and let it carry on. What I'm saying is you should accept it and be honest with yourself about what's going on. And from there on out, you can decide whether you want to continue to accept this or whether you want to do something about it. And if you're not going to do something about it,
then you have to accept it as it is.
Then that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Because what you're saying is that you have to accept things for the way they are in that present moment.
In that moment.
But you don't have to accept them.
That it's going to be like that always.
Always. Okay, yeah.
So, for example, if we go if we go very specific with the UK and the school meals and Marcus Rashford and what's going on there, you have to accept the fact that the government is not doing enough.
Yeah.
But you don't have to accept that that's how it should be.
And that's how it's going to be.
That's how it's going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's then within your power. And again, that's the difference, like, that's the nuance between empathy and compassion. Because compassion is rooted in the action. That's what actually helps.
Right.
So empathy is your feeling for someone else. So, for example, you could... So okay, I'm trying to think of an example. So with the school children... You could see that on the news, be like, there are so many school children going without food.
Yeah.
And you feel for them. You feel terrible for them. You're sat in that feeling, in that pain.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you were to come with a compassionate approach, you would do something. You would sign a petition. You would donate. You would, I don't know, reach out to Boris, reach out to Marcus. I don't know. Whatever it is. That releases that emotional energy that you've built up from the empathy.
So it's the intention of making that situation better or trying to resolve it.
Yeah, exactly. As opposed to just feeling it.
Yeah.
And understanding that.
Yeah, because that's how... Because when I feel... Like, I'm very sensitive and empathetic, and I feel like that then just sits with me.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why we had to take some time from social media, because I felt like that stuff was just weighing me down and I felt completely powerless in that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What was it? Raha said something amazing. We were going to use this as the title of the episode, but we've gone against it. But you said, life is uncertain, period.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Right?
Life is uncertain, period. And if you take nothing else away from this episode, today, take away the fact that life is uncertain.
Life was always uncertain before the pandemic.
Exactly.
We didn't know what was going to happen the following day. Yes, this has made it even more uncertain, and it's even harder to predict what the future is going to be like. But it was always still a prediction.
Yeah. It was a visualization in your brain.
Exactly. Then an idea and a plan or goal that you've really, really tightly attached yourself to.
Bingo.
And we just need to loosen the grip, I think.
On those.
At least I'm trying to.
And with planning and expectations, you know, we were talking about planning before, and how you're someone who you like to plan, whereas I'm someone who needs to be guided more intuitively.
And I'm quite curious to see how other people navigate their time in the pandemic when it comes to planning and stuff. Are you still planning? Are you not? Because I find it really helps.
Yeah, I find
to have really basic, loose plans that I'm flexible with, if that makes sense. I still hold space for all of those things to change, because obviously the last year has been crazy, so I don't want to cling too tightly.
Yeah.
But it still allows me to work towards something without feeling like I'm just floating through life and just floating by day to day and not doing anything that means anything to me or makes me feel like I don't have a purpose.
Yeah, definitely. I love the floating, but it's taking me years.
Yeah, the floating life for you is perfect.
Yeah, but it's taken me years to get to this point.
You just work very well under pressure as well.
Yeah.
So the minute something changes and you have to switch up and do something, you can do that very easily. And you do it very well. I just can't.
Thank you.
I crumble under the pressure and I'm like, but I haven't prepared for this. Do you know what I mean? I can't. So
yeah. But again, that goes back to practicing trust.
Yeah.
Trusting yourself. And they're not... All of this, what we're saying, sounds a lot easier said than done.
Oh
but
my gosh.
These are ongoing, practices that you literally have to incorporate into your life.
Yeah, I mean, don't think we're preaching to you, because we're having a horrible
working
time.
on it. We are.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
This lockdown has really, I think, brought things to light that the first lockdown didn't bring to light, and I've got more time to contemplate things, and you're confronted with more shit.
But do you know what? I'm also really glad that we're showing up to this episode in our feels. Very clearly in our feels.
Of course.
Because I think it just goes to show that, no one's got it figured out.
No, not at all. We're all trying to figure this out.
But yeah, I think what I was saying before you
rudely interrupted.
Yeah. Is that you need to make intentional time to incorporate these practices and exercises into your life. So literally making time to sit and write affirmations and repeating them to yourself forcefully at first, unnaturally, and
affirmations are something I struggle with.
It's not fake it till you make it, though.
It sounds really strange when you first do it.
Yeah.
But I also have seen the way that affirmations help people, and it makes complete sense when I look into the way that they work.
It makes sense, doesn't it?
Of course, but I think, like anything else, it takes practice.
Definitely. If you feel like you're someone who's not quite ready to process this stuff by yourself or to sit with yourself, find a group, find an online group, which we're going to be setting up, right? We're going to work on that. Where it's a safe space where you can explore what meditation really has to offer, or just relate to other people and their difficulties, because it's really just about getting to know yourself and your responses.
Yeah. And the other thing is that in times like these, back to like control and feelings of uncertainty, is that everybody is in such like they feel so uncertain that I think a lot of people feel like they've lost a lot of control over a lot of aspects of their lives.
Yeah.
And you end up projecting that onto the people that are closest to you.
100%.
So I think it's also really important to make sure that you're communicating your needs the best way that you can. And you're not trying to control the things and the people around you
as a substitute for not being able to control anything else in your life. Oh my God, yeah, that's very true. That's very true. And we've got an episode coming up on communicating, but a sensitive approach. So I think we've chewed your ear off enough.
Yeah.
What's your song of the week?
Oh, my song of the week. I've been listening to a playlist on Spotify called Jazz Vibes while I've been painting, and I love it.
Yeah.
There's some really, really nice stuff on there. It's just like a really nice thing to have on in the background. What is yours?
I've actually been listening to Kid Cudi's new album and Tequila Shots.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
Very, very good.
I've always loved Kid Cudi because he's very good at processing and like writing down.
Making it relevant.
Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, I feel like in my early, like when I was like 13, 14 and Man on the Moon 1 came out, that's when I was just like, oh my God, I do feel like this. I feel like this.
Yeah. The self-awareness starts to come into play.
Yeah, so for that reason, it was very nostalgic and very enjoyable at the same time. And kind of like really in your feels. So
yeah,
there we go.
Brilliant album.
Well, thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
We will see you next week.
Catch you later.
Goodbye.
Bye.